Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wrestling Republic daily broadcast. Today, I am joined by the man who saves lives by day and liquor companies by night. How are you, Soul?
I'm really tired, man. I'm running on like 2% with AA batteries right now. I'm not in the best spot.
You need to get some, you need to get some of that Scottish confidence down you. And
Ha!
yeah,
Such
anyway, I'm
thing.
also joined by Wrestling Republic's head of reviewing, producer Coby. How are you, Coby?
I'm doing fine.
Nice. Well, today, what a show we have for you, and we're going to get right into the opening monologue. My opening monologue in today's podcast will be based around the rise of artificial intelligence and how it could affect the future of professional wrestling. Over the past few weeks, ChatGPT has dominated mainstream news headlines as users have used it to write songs, a Twitter employee used it to write working code, university students have used it to write A-level academic essays, and one teacher even used it to mark their students' essays. In case you don't know what ChatGPT is, it's a free-use AI text generator which can answer questions and even write emails, songs, poems, and in some cases, books. I went on ChatGPT earlier today and asked it to write an essay on why professional wrestling isn't fake. To my shock, it generated an entire essay in just under a minute. I won't bore you by reading out the entire essay, but here is what it said about the conclusion. In conclusion, WWE is not fake in the sense that it is not genuine or authentic. The physicality, emotions, and storylines flipping heck. I can't say the word flipping heck. I can't do it in WWE are very real, and the performers are highly trained and skilled at what they do. One day my speech issues will go away, guys, I promise. While it is not a legitimate sport, it is a form of entertainment that should be appreciated for its unique blend of athleticism, theatre, and storytelling. After reading this, I thought to myself, what if, it could write a storyline? So I simply asked ChatGPT to book a storyline between The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39. And this is what it replied with in less than 30 seconds. The Rock and Roman Reigns had been feuding for months, with each man determined to come out on top at WWE WrestleMania 39. The Rock, a wrestling legend and Hollywood superstar, had returned to WWE after a long absence and was eager to prove that he was still the best in the business. Roman Reigns, on the other hand, was the current champion and had been on a dominant winning streak. As the two men faced off in the ring at WrestleMania 39, the tension was palpable. The Rock, with his signature Brahma Bull tattoo and the people's eyebrow gesture, stood across from Roman Reigns, who was known for his impressive physique and no-nonsense attitude. The crowd went wild as the bell rang, signaling the start of the match. The two men locked up and began exchanging blows, each one trying to gain the upper hand. The Rock, with his years of experience and unmatched charisma, managed to get the better of Roman Reigns in the early going. But Roman refused to stay down. He fought back with everything he had, unleashed a series of powerful moves that had the crowd on the edge of their seats. As the match wore on, it became clear that this was going to be a battle for the ages. The Rock and Roman Reigns were evenly matched, each one giving it their all and refusing to back down. The crowd roared as the two men went back and forth, each one scoring near falls and close calls. In the end, it was The Rock who emerged victorious, hitting the famous rock bottom finisher and pinning Roman Reigns for the win. The crowd erupted as The Rock's hand was raised in victory, and he celebrated with his fans, basking in the glory of his triumphant return to the WWE. Roman Reigns, meanwhile, walked away with his head held high, knowing that he had given it his all, and he would be back to fight another day. While it wrote more of a story than a match, it wrote more of a story of the match rather than how, to book it itself. It's clear to see that AI is probably not too far from a point where it could, book an entire wrestling show and possibly make bookers such as Triple H and Tony Khan surplus to requirements. On one hand, part of me feels terrified that AI would eliminate any new innovative storylines if it were to replace a booker. And as we all know, AI uses information which already exists to generate its outcomes. However, the more I thought about this, the more I realized that there hasn't really been a truly unique storyline in wrestling for a long, long time, as every story takes inspiration from previous ones. if you break stories down into its simplest basic form, every story has basically already been done at this point, and they're just building on what's already been done and adding new elements to it. Perhaps there is the potential for AI to eliminate any bias from the booker, and this could mean that talent will become unhappy with booking less often, as they will know the algorithm doesn't see them higher up the card at this moment in time. But then it leads to the question, who decides the algorithm, and what makes a crowd, what makes the algorithm decide who should be main eventing? Is it merch sales, star ratings, crowd reactions? The simple truth is that AI is breaking into every industry, and it's unlikely wrestling will be an exception. I decided to actually ask the AI itself how AI could affect professional wrestling, and I was shocked that it admitted that there could be potential drawbacks and ethical limitations. The AI stated the following: there were a few ways that artificial intelligence could potentially affect professional wrestling. One potential impact of AI in professional wrestling could be the creation of virtual wrestlers or matches. For example, AI could be used to generate virtual wrestlers that are able to compete in matches against each other or against other human wrestlers. This could potentially allow for the creation of new, unique characters and storylines, as well as we allow for wrestlers to compete in matches even if they are injured or unavailable. And that's scary. That in itself is very scary. That AI doesn't get injured.
All I think there is with the whole thing with movies right now, bringing back dead actors. Are we going to see dead wrestlers come back for one final match?
We really could. Like, this is it's crazy. I don't know how I feel about it. And another way that AI could potentially, this is what the AI wrote itself, another way that AI could potentially impact professional wrestling is through the analysis of machine learning algorithms to analyze and improve wrestlers' in-ring performances. By analyzing data, wrestlers' moves, reactions, and in-ring strategies, AI could potentially help wrestlers to improve their skills and increase their chances of success in the ring. Overall, the impact of AI on professional wrestling will likely depend on how it is adopted and used within the industry. While it has the potential to bring some, exciting new possibilities, it is also important to consider the potential drawbacks and ethical implications as well. And the fact that the AI acknowledged that is scary. So, what are your thoughts on this conversation? How do you see AI influencing wrestling?
Well, I'll say this right now. Where the hell was AI when I was at university and I had to do fucking 5,000 word essays? Prick. I mean, look at some of this right now. I mean, this is probably going to be like a 5 terabyte thing. You're going to need a multiple goddamn extended hard drives if we're in this bad boy. But also, writers will lose jobs. There's what's the point of hiring writers? You're just going to hire mechanics at this point to keep this thing running. I do understand maybe if there's a limitation in the job market for writers for storylines and stuff like that, then hey, go for it. New technology, might as well try and embrace this new digital age. Every bit of advancement is the best thing for worldwide humanitarian issues. But I it's an interesting one because about bringing digital wrestlers to fight in. So what's that going to be like? Is it going to be like a beam of light shining down the ring, like God in Backlash? He's like, oh shit, he's back. I mean, who knows? Maybe Hulk Hogan can get another title run from this as well, and that's what we want to see in 2050, right? Hulk Hogan coming back and slamming Roman Reigns Jr. with the leg drop, and he's now the WWF Golden Universal Winged Eagle Spinner Champion 2052. Cool. Dig it. All right. But it's an interesting thing because that's if the technology works. Yeah. Right? It's worked for these very minimal circumstances. It's not been hard tested concurrently. How long is it going to be when it redoes a storyline? How long is it going to be when it's basically blatant copywriting? How long is it going to be until this AI program goes sentient and we have a whole Skynet situation on our hands? That's something I would like to avoid. I like to live. I like to see the end of tomorrow. And I also like to see another pint of beer in my hands. But I will digress on that point. I don't know where we'll be with this. Is Elon Musk going to stop Twitter and run Skynet 2.0 just so we can get more storylines? I don't know. I'm tired.
Yeah, Grace in the comments is saying you're barely alive right now.
I ain't living at this point. I ain't living.
Oh, it's been a long day. What are your thoughts, Coby? What are your thoughts on this entire situation with AI affecting professional wrestling?
Well, there's two things I think about, and I think of as like, is artificial intelligence hinting at it happening in the metaverse? Like, as stupid as it sounds,
Imagine WrestleMania
Yes.
500 in the metaverse, and there's just a bunch of weeb
Yeah,
avatars in the
I think
crowd. Like
WrestleMania 45 will be in the metaverse, honestly.
Oh my
God.
days, man!
Like,
Hell no!
well,
I
that's
did
the
not
thing
want
is
to.
like I don't know what it's thinking about or if that's what it's saying, but I remember the episode of SpongeBob where Plankton's eating from the hologram, yeah. And it's just like, oh, yum. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like he's eating from a hologram, and it's just like, was that what, like, is that what you're really thinking could happen in wrestling? Like, what are we gonna get holograms wrestling each other? What is what makes a Dave Meltzer 7-star match going to influence how matches play out in this world?
Yeah. What's is
Like,
this 1080p or 4K? Does that
like,
get a star?
I don't know. I don't think. That's the thing is I don't know what people wanted. Like, I don't know if artificial intelligences will be accepted into wrestling. Like, what is the like? You mentioned AI's opinion, I guess, opinions or facts about what could happen, but so that's what. Oh, so the doctors are replaced, or they just have a doctor running the AI, or are they actually replacing writers? Which, I mean,
I mean, are we going to get a
I
modern day
wouldn't.
anonymous GM for Raw situation with this thing? And it's not actually Hornswoggle. It's like a full blown
Like,
artificial machine, and it comes out in like a Vince McMahon robot body, and then Stone Cold comes back and he's like, I have to stunner this mecha Vince to save the WWE universe, and then we get like a whole goddamn JRPG up in this bitch where fucking John Cena comes back and he's like, I will hand you my sword to fight this shit. I am so gone right now. Shit. I mean, like, this is gonna be so dumb. This is gonna be so dumb.
No, it will. And I mean, one thing which we're not talking about, right, we haven't spoken about today, is how, I mean, the likelihood is no matter who it's sold to, WWE is going to be influenced by AI anyway, right? But if they're sold to somebody like Disney, perhaps it could happen quicker than if they were sold to somebody such as Endeavor. I mean, that's on the cards. Then again, Endeavor, are investing like literally everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're investing on some AI anyway. But I mean, that's another factor to bring into it. Who it's going to be sold to. That could influence how quickly AI is, and maybe the new owners might think, well, some of these roles aren't needed because AI can do their job already. Like, I mean, we've already seen it today, right? Some stories, and this, by the way, is only the version available to the public. There's versions which aren't available to the public, which are more advanced of this, and there's ones which can generate movies and images too. And this is all this isn't some conspiracy theory. That is a genuine fact that more advanced ones aren't available for public use yet. But the fact now that Chat GPT is available for public use, and we're already seeing the impact that it's having on the world, and let's be honest here, very few of them so far have been good. Like, I mean, university teachers using it to mark work, students using it to write essays, it's just laziness.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
plagiarism.
how can you tell the difference between a fake and somebody who's fake with somebody with fake knowledge and somebody with real knowledge? You can't. It's just
Yeah.
it's more.
He's like, oh, I've seen your paper here, and it looks very artificial. Oh, nuts will do. Just brings out the Microsoft paperclip and it just scolds you.
The worst part is you can't tell the difference. Like, when you read it, you cannot tell it's written by AI. Like, when I was reading it for a second, then I actually got lost on whether or not that was my bit that I'd written or the bit that the AI had wrote. You really can't tell the difference. It's so smart. And I mean, I'm not going to do this on stream, right? You're not getting me rapping on stream yet, but hopefully never. But Eminem did a. I said on the AI generator, I said, write an Eminem song about WWE, and it did it. And they did it within like a few seconds as well. Like that was actually honestly less than 5 seconds. The Eminem one, that was scary fast. I mean, the other answers that I showed today was between 30 seconds and a minute each one, but the Eminem one was scary quick. Like, it's to the point now. Artificial intelligence really could replace a lot of creativity within wrestling, and that is a scary, scary thought to have. Coby, you touched upon the possibility of it's not being accepted, and I really, really hope that is the case. But I think we're gonna have to wait out. Truthfully, wait and just see what happens. And Melissa in the comments saying hi, hello, thank you for joining us. Right, let's go on to the next segment now. And this is one which I imagine both of you have a different feeling about, right? And the question is, was the AEW-Impact relationship one way? Basically, Josh Alexander, the Impact World Champion, has done an interview on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, and he's spoken about the AEW-Impact relationship, and he said this year, during the whole relationship, especially during the Kenny part portion where he was the champion and all of this other stuff, there was definitely like a cloud over the locker room. I'd say you'd hear whispers and little conversations in the corner being like, man, like the door's swinging one direction right now. They're all coming in here. You know what I mean? That's fine. It elevates our product. And it's nice to have new faces and stuff competing with our guys to put us on the same level. Of course, like me defeating Christian Cage. That's like another thing, we have to be grateful for. Obviously, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, but it would have been real nice if some Impact wrestlers could have got onto the AEW programming and showed what we could do against those guys. Because I think, our locker room stacks up right against any locker room in this business, be it WWE, AEW, New Japan, or anything like that. So, what's your opinion on this comment?
Now I see why I was brought into this part of the episode. The AEW fanboy trying to catch him out. Now, I'll agree. The Impact AEW thing during the pandemic pretty much was very one-sided. I will agree with that. Giving Kenny having the whole belts thing looked so goddamn cool. I mean, he looked cool with all those belts: AAA, TNA, and the Impact, and the AEW World Title. Man looked like a goddamn $1,000,000. From looking at it for what we got from it. On the AEW side, you had Kenny holding the belts. You had the Good Brothers coming on TV with the Impact titles, as well as an Impact title shot given to, I think it was Evil Uno and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order. They were given a shot as well. Obviously, the Impact title was the first ever title defense on Rampage as well. So that's something you can't knock as well. That Impact can hold that. Yeah, we were the first ever title defense and title change on Rampage. And Christian Cage holding it as well. That was a very great moment. And, Scott Moore was there. So, obviously, it shows that, courtesy, good thing. And then, obviously, he went to defend it. He defended it against Brian Myers. And then I think he immediately then lost it to Josh Alexander. He only had one defense, if I'm correct. I don't know. I'm sorry. But what did Impact gain from this? Let's look at it here. Their titles were shown bigger stage from being on Access TV. And I know people are going to go, well, when Kenny was champion, Impact didn't gain any viewers. They lost viewers. Okay, cool. Whatever. From 50,000 to 42,000 or something like that. Okay, bet. Then you got to look at AEW as well. They were doing good numbers by then. At that point, they were still doing great numbers. Your titles were shown on a station to a viewership nearly triple and quadruple times your own. No shame to Impact. The only reason why Impact viewers is probably low is because of the station they're putting on. If they were put on something like Spike or even Fox Sports or something like that, I'm sure they would do a lot better viewers. Because Impact has a very strong roster with Jordan Grace as a women's champion, Josh Alexander. They've got the Motor City Machine Guns, and they've got other teams as well. I really like Rosemary in Impact. I think she's a great performer as well. I love the whole character and gimmick as well. Very great. But as well to mention as well, I'm pretty sure one of the Impact pay-per-views had Moose come to Jacksonville during the pandemic to go against Kenny, or was it Sami Callihan? And again, it's been a while. I haven't been able...
Yeah, Moose came.
Moose wrestled in Daly's place,
but it's like
it was just recorded at Daly's place, and they aired that match in from Daly's place. The Moose
on Impact TV.
But then Slammiversary was Kenny.
Yeah, maybe other things would have been different with the pandemic. Maybe we would have had a live thing at Jacksonville. I don't know. Is Josh Alexander fair in his comment? Absolutely. You know, I would have loved to see more Impact stars go over and do stuff with AEW at the time. I don't know if Cardona was there at that point. I would love to see Cardona and Cody go for something. I would have loved to see Spikeball, Mike Bailey, and Jungle Boy go against for something as well. I would have loved to have seen Josh Alexander and Ethan Page, you know, the North reuniting. That would have been a great match to have at an Impact kind of Forbidden Door. Moose and Powerhouse Hobbs as well would have been a banger. Abaddon and Rosemary, Jordan Grace and Nyla Rose. There would have been great matches that could have happened. And I feel like the Impact AEW relationship thing was a stepping stone to get to the New Japan one. I feel like AEW had to do it to show that they could be playing ball with other companies to gain the attraction of New Japan and be like, hey, we're all okay. Let's have some fun here and make some good money and have some great matches. Fair enough. Do I want to see it come, again? Do I want to see another Impact crossover with AEW? Absolutely. Absolutely. I will happily take another Impact and AEW show thing. But is Josh Alexander right in his comments? To a point, he is.
I think that's the most. It's not really negative at all what you just said, but I think that's the most negative thing you're ever going to say about AEW. But
for now, you can shut up.
But Ethan in the comments here, hello Ethan, welcome. But yeah, no, I mean I agree with you there, right? I agree with his comment basically exactly because it really did bring some more eyes to Impact. It in terms of I know their viewership did drop, right? Factually speaking, it did drop, but it did bring some eyes, at least temporarily, to the product. And then it didn't last very long, but it did temporarily. But yes,
I watched Impact because of Kenny's title run. Like before,
I'll admit, so did I.
Yeah, before that, I tuned into Slammiversary because I remember they had that big video where they were teasing all the WWE releases coming in, and it was like, who was it? It was like they were teasing Miro, the Iconics, a bunch of other ones as well. And yeah, I tuned in for that show, and it was all right. Didn't want to keep on staying, but when Kenny had the title, so invested in AEW, I was like, I want to see what Kenny's doing with the title. I still remember the ending to Winter's Coming, where Kenny got the title and then ran out, and Don Kaz was with him, and he was like, tune in on Thursday. He's like, oh, we're not live on Thursday. Tune on Thursday at Access TV on Impact. And I was like, oh, cool. This is something interesting. This is like a branching out of, because you mind at this point, AEW had been in Daly's place for a good couple of months.
Yeah.
At this point, and it felt so tight knit for AEW. It's like, you've seen the stage, you've seen everything, you've seen the backstage places, you got familiar with it. You knew where you were.
It felt a bit stale almost.
Honestly, to me, I didn't mind it. I loved it. It felt home for me. It felt like if you were watching ECW and you saw the ECW arena all the time. That's what it felt like to me. Even watching BTE and seeing all the backstage stuff, you knew like, oh, that's Dark Order's little clubhouse.
Yeah.
That's the corridor where the Bucks and Kenny were having fun. That's the Bucks where Private Party were holding their private party. You got to know the place. And then the whole Impact situation was brought on. It felt like an emergence. You were leaving the tight-knit home of Daly's place and branching out into the further world of wrestling. So I do love it. I did love it, but yeah, as again.
Yeah, no, I agree. It did feel like that moment. That moment was a fantastic. When Don Callis, and Kenny were running down, I really loved that moment. In fact, I'd probably go as far to say that's one of my favorite moments in AEW. And it did feel like, the Impact relationship when it first started. You were like, the forbidden doors open. It felt like it was a little added spice to the pandemic era. And of course, it didn't go the way we wanted it to go. But it was still enjoyable. What did you think about it all, Coby?
And see, that's the thing, is following up it's hard to say something that wasn't already said. The pay-per-view buys went up with Kenny holding the title at Slammiversary. They did. The TV ratings did go down. And you can say that is a relationship that happened. Like, oh, they went up, but these went down. So, like, they could cancel each other out. At the end of the day, aside from, Christian won the title on AEW Rampage. On AEW Rampage, but Kenny dropped it to an AEW talent. I think this is where it is like, at the time, Kenny Omega benefited from the belt collector because he was Kenny Omega. He dropped the title to Christian Cage. AAA wouldn't let him drop the title to Andrade when Ric Flair was in attendance. Makes no sense at the end of the day. Kenny loses to Hangman, and then Kenny relinquishes the AAA title. Like,
It was stupid.
from a standpoint of just the storyline of the belt collector, it fell apart.
Oh, it did.
But I think Impact did not benefit from someone beating Kenny Omega because no one did. On the Impact roster, nobody beat Kenny Omega, I guess, in a singles match. Because I think there was a 6-man tag they might have lost. Him and Gallows Anderson, I think. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure there was one. But that's the thing.
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure you're
I
right.
can't think of it, but I think they did.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure during the whole belt collector thing as well, wasn't that not when Jay White came into Impact as well?
No, Jay White was early last spring type of thing.
But no, actually, he did come in. You're right.
He came in.
Jay White made an appearance, and then never came back.
Right after, Jay White appeared after Kenny beat Callahan. Right, that is true. That was like the only good debut from that Slammiversary. And then he just never came back until later on and all that. But that's the thing is, I look at it as no one bent. I don't think nobody on the Impact roster had their stock hired.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with
and I think Josh Alexander was at the point where yes, he benefited from Kenny being the shit champion, not on the show or barely on the show, and he was able to carry the X Division and make the continue to prove why the X Division is such a special division in wrestling, and it's because he had those matches with TJP. Those X Division matches. As a world champion, he hasn't had a bad match either.
No.
Josh Alexander is truly I think he is the longest reigning Impact champion right now. And rightfully so.
He's overcame Bobby Roode's record, I think.
He overcame Bobby Roode, I think it was like a week ago. It was. It was January 4th. It was January 4th. He officially became the longest reigning champion, and I have a guess of who they are going to have him beat, and Steve Maclin as the one to dethrone him. But I think he's really taken the company on his back, and when a time that it needed happened, when there was no crowds, they had piped in sound. When Kenny could have taken that ball, and he didn't. I think that's a slap in the face to Impact Wrestling.
No, I agree with you completely there. And I want to quickly go back to a point you made about it being Andrade. AEW not letting him lose to Andrade, but letting him lose to Christian Cage. And the reason simply for that was that they already knew at that point that Kenny was going to beat Christian Cage. So he was going to get his win back. So AEW were like, oh, yeah, they can have the win on Rampage, but Kenny will get the win on the pay-per-view, which again is another kick in the nuts to Impact. Right, their champion losing. That's why I don't like the belt collector gimmick. That's why I don't like it when anybody does it, as it never works. But it was, it was what it was. And Andrade should have won that AAA title. AAA actually got done so dirty by AEW so many times now.
Well, even then, the AAA situation is apparently Tony Khan was fine with Kenny losing, but AAA said no. I
refuse to believe it.
The way I always thought it was
that's the report. As much as that's the report,
from storyline purpose. But I don't know if I thought it was always meant to be Hangman at All Out from where the storyline was going with him and Kenny. But then obviously his wife had a kid and he took time off. Yeah, I don't know if that played in factor, but I always thought it was going to be Kenny would lose each belt one by one until he finally lost the AEW one.
That's what I thought.
And Hangman would be basically. Yeah. That's what Hangman would have been, the destroyer of the belt collector. I still think the Kenny and Hangman story covering like AEW's first 3 years from 2019 to 2020 and 2021 is probably my favorite storyline in wrestling altogether. I love that goddamn storyline. Probably because as a fan, I was watching it live and I experienced it. Like, I can't say, Batista and Evolution was my favorite thing because I didn't experience it live. I mean, heck, I haven't even watched most of the matches. All I've seen of it is just the thumbs down segment of it. Other things as well, Cena and Edge and all that other stuff. Like, seeing that Kenny and Hangman rivalry live and seeing each piece fall bit by bit and watching BT and basically getting like the extra icing on the cake was so magical and so special that I truly love it, and I still love it. Even though I would have preferred the whole domino effect of every belt loss and Kenny gets basically rabid and crazy over the AEW title that he holds it and hogs it and tries to keep it by every single mischievous trick in the book.
Yeah.
Still love the ending of the Full Gear thing and all that coming back, and Hangman finds his confidence, comes back, wins the ladder match, gets the title shot, and bing bang boom wins. But I would have loved some extra stuff from the Impact. I really wanted the Dark Order to defeat the Good Brothers for the tag belts. I would have loved that. Absolutely loved that. Big fan of the Dark Order, and have the Dark Order win the Impact belts would have been bloody awesome. I would have loved maybe the X Division title to come back in and give it to like Darby or Jungle Boy or Dante Martin. I mean, imagine Dante Martin with the X Division belt. Ooh.
But then you are just screwing over Impact even more.
Well, you could easily let Impact.
Well, you wouldn't have given the title to an AEW talent, but in a time where it needed, like you could have legitimately. Okay, so Slammiversary was the Kenny thing. You could have said, "Oh yeah, AEW talent are in this match." I'm gonna. So I just looked it up, and it is a funny thing that whenever Kenny Omega faced. Like Kenny Omega, Team Kenny versus Team Eddie Edwards always won in the 6-man matches. Kenny and the Good Brothers lost, apparently like 3 matches. But Slammiversary, with that Ultimate X, you had Josh Alexander, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Petey Williams, Rohit Raju, and Trey Miguel. Petey Williams and Rohit Raju didn't need to be in the match. You could have brought a couple guys in from AEW. You could have. You could have built it up as, you could have had on Dynamite a qualifier for the Ultimate X. Like, you theoretically could have built things to where we're just going to give the talent and let them be focused on a stage like Slammiversary coming from Dynamite, and it just would have made it a little more important. For Kenny Omega to just come in and he had his wins in his singles matches. He lost.
Maybe Impact just wanted Kenny because he's the biggest star, and they just wanted the world title thing. Maybe Impact weren't interested in the tag team or the X or the women's or whatever. We don't know. I mean, I say that give it to the AEW guys because you'll have to be exposed on the biggest TV brand of wrestling. I know you're going to say like, "Oh, WWE," like, yeah, piss off. But you got AEW, right? Have the AEW guys. They're loved by everyone. Try and get them on TNT and showing off the belt, and then maybe doing some cross stuff with Impact. And then when you lose to an Impact guy, hopefully that thing's carried over and new people are exposed to that.
Fair.
I think another thing that I'm pretty sure Bully Ray made a fuss about on the Busted Open at the time, and I think it was a fact that when you saw Kenny Omega on TV, the Impact titles were props for Michael Nakazawa.
Yeah.
That is disrespectful.
It is.
Like, I understand, yes, the main title he has as what he had was the AEW title, but it's the same thing. Like, Heyman holds it with Roman, but Roman takes it and gets the pose. Like, at the end of the day,
No, it is different because the way Heyman holds it is a lot better too, right?
Well, I remember the most interesting entrance from Kenny with the belt clear. I remember him coming out, and I can't remember what match it was, where it was, but he had the AEW around his waist, AAA around his neck, and both Impact and TNA titles in one hand. And to be fair, that TNA heavyweight title had seen better days. Like, the plates were falling off of it, man. I mean, Impact could have at least given him a better actual title that was not, from Poundland.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, That was true. I do remember that at the time. But anyway, let's move on to the final segment of today's episode. Right? Let's move on to Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho last night worked PWG Bowler. He made a surprise debut in PWG and showed up alongside the rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society. And they took on, in a 10-man tag team match, Evil Uno, Jonathan Gresham, SB Kento, Michael Oku, who I'm a big fan of, by the way. Fantastic wrestler. If you haven't seen his work, make sure to check it out. And Kevin Blackwood. Jericho hit the Judas effect on Blackwood to get the victory. Now, this, we're not going to be able to see the match for, quite a few months because, of course, PWG do everything on DVD.
6 months.
6 months might be, but
6 months. Well, no, they do have a deal with Highspots.
They do the matches on DVD at this age? Jesus Christ.
They still sell business DVD, method. Highspots has a deal where I think they get it either 6 or 8 months after either the release of the DVD or the date of the release event.
After the DVD. I think it's long after the release of the DVD.
Why don't they just do a deal with Pro Wrestling TV? Like Warrior Wrestling and CIS.
They wouldn't make money from Pro Wrestling TV. Nobody makes money from Pro Wrestling TV. I don't think so. It's a free service. But at the end of the day, if you're PWG and you straight up know Chris Jericho is coming, why wouldn't you set something up? Why wouldn't you test a live streaming software? Why wouldn't you test doing it live on an IWTV, on a Fight TV, on something to where you could probably get the buys just even after the event happens and Jericho is live? Because that happens a lot of times on Fight TV. Events will happen, and then buys will come in after.
I figure AEW fans would tune in with Garcia turning up. They were like, "Oh, maybe the JS will turn up as well, and you could get some extra buys." Like, I know
the actual reason, right? The actual reason, and I've spoken to people involved in the situation a few times before. Right? It was a couple of years ago, it was pre-pandemic, but I spoke to them about it, and they truly believe PWG truly believe that it's a better business model to do what they do. They believe because it doesn't come out on DVD for months later, they get significantly higher ticket sales, and also they charge more for the tickets than most they charge significantly more than most independents do, and they sell out most times. So they believe that is in part because you cannot watch it live. It's like what happens in football in the UK. No 3 p.m. matches are live, because they believe if there's football on TV, then people won't go to see their local teams play, which is why on Saturdays, 3 p.m., none of them are allowed to be televised. And that's PWG's idea. And they also think that they earn more profit-wise off DVDs than most companies do off streams on Fight. So this is why that they do it. Now, whether or not it's correct is, anybody's, I'm not an expert financially. I haven't done the figures and tried to work out. But that is what they truly do believe, and that is the reason why it was not live. But, so what are your thoughts on more AEW wrestlers working independent events? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think it's putting them at risk of injury?
I'll say, bro, to PWG, I know nothing about PWG. The only thing I know about it is Daniel Garcia is the champion, and King of the Black Thrones were the tag team champions. Don't know if they still are. Cool. No, fair enough. But I'm happy with them working independent events, because this is basically like their house shows. It's like WWE doing house shows. Let the AEW guys be independent contractors and work other places. Darby's worked other places. Ethan Page's work other places. Dark Order's work other places, and I can honestly see improvement. Evil Uno. You look at Evil Uno's original debut with Stu Grayson, and look at him now. He's improved. Man's improved absolutely well, as well as other wrestlers. It's allowing them to go out there, represent the company, and work for little promotions, because you never know where that big star could come from a little promotion. Like, I feel like Nick Wayne, Nick Wayne was hired by Darby Allin and given a contract. I don't know, with probably TK actually authorized it, and Darby wasn't just hanging out contracts. It was like he was with Sting. I got cool. But no, I mean, like that. Look what happened. Look at Nick Wayne. Nick Wayne's spectacular. He's going to be a great addition when he turns 18 and leaves high school and enters the big world of working. Congratulations. It sucks. But yeah, I see it as their house shows. It's their way of sending their guys out as basically representatives of the company, train, have matches, find talent, bring them back for Dark, bring back for Elevation, build more bonds with companies. It's a win-win.
No, I'd agree there. And also, I think I said this years ago when AEW started. Well, not years ago, like a couple of years back. Anyway, it was slightly before the pandemic. They stopped letting the AEW TK stopped letting AEW wrestlers work as many independent events. Like it was harder to get them authorized. And I said this then: the fact that you can work other promotions, the fact that you can work independent events, was one advantage that AEW had over WWE when people were deciding where they wanted to, sign. Because they're like, well, yeah, I can go AEW, but, if I'm not being used that much, at least, I can go to my favorite independent promotion. I can work PWG and all that. And I feel that was an advantage which they had. I understand that TK was afraid of, the injuries and, safety at some of these shows. But, yeah, I still think it'd be worth taking that risk. What do you think, Coby?
And I mean, I'm gonna say I've said it this way with the CM Punk situation. It's a tug of war. There's many factors that go into place with this. For their talent, like that's the thing. Certain talent I can agree with, like the people that are on Dark almost every week, or the people because I know the local promotion up here, or I guess not even up here, but just in Canada. A long touring promotion that does tours in multiple provinces. He just booked Matt Taven for the Winnipeg show, and it's like, well, yeah. So theoretically, the people who need the extra time and need the action or aren't being used should be allowed to go there, but. I mean, I understand this Jericho probably crossing the bucket list. He tweeted this was his first independent event since 1996. Which, yeah, history. It's him crossing off the bucket list. I'm fine with it. Obviously, Jericho didn't do anything. He didn't do anything major. Like, he didn't wrestle a 40-minute match. Yeah. Himself, it was a 10-man tag, so he probably had a collective I'd say no more than 5 minutes in the ring as the legal man. So it's more of a relaxed position like that. I think it gets muddy when we saw this with Warrior, and Soul has worked with them multiple times. I'm not going to say I'll give him credit, but it's a pleasure to see people working with it. But Warrior spoke about it. They had the Lucha Brothers versus the Briscoe Brothers booked in September of last year, and then while there were communication errors. Oh, well, this team you're supposed to go through this team and this team, and the Lucha Brothers are signed to Impact AEW, so you got to go to this management member or whatever, and those are the issues, and we see it a lot in independent wrestling. Me and Anthony watched the Warrior show where it was Calvin Takeman versus Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal came out of a spur of the moment because they needed a guy, but it went to a draw. Like AEW, I have no problem with AEW letting their talent work elsewhere. Yes, you risk injury. Yes, you're putting trust into other people. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be stickling. If you're bringing in someone like a Matt Taven, like a Jay Lethal, unless the aim is to have Lethal win and it's not like a title match or anything, it's just a high profile match, Jay Lethal could win. But if it's like a title match versus your champion and you're bringing in a star just to have a big match, I think you're going to run into trouble from a booking standpoint of, well, they're not going to let their talent lose. And it's clear they don't.
It's just business at the end of the day for everything.
It's business, but it kind of pushes it in both ways.
How many AEW fans actually watch these independent promotions though? Like, is it really that bad for their talent to take a loss? Does it really hurt AEW that much?
I doubt it. I mean, it could rub off on a thing like maybe say Jay Lethal goes to Warrior and Warrior champions Casey Navarro, and say there's an agreement that Casey Navarro beats Jay Lethal, and it could put them in good books of like, yeah, you made our talent look strong, you did us well, you didn't do us dirty, you had agreeable booking, and then it continues on. Like, I've talked to Warrior twice, and I've always had them to be great guests on the Soul Sessions. Steve Tortello, the CEO owner, has talked about that. He's had great communications with AEW booking and management through Christopher Daniels. And he did speak about, the whole Briscoe Brothers and Lucha Brothers situation, had to go through, it wasn't through AEW's booking team, was actually through Ring of Honor's booking team for the Briscoes. And then they were told by someone at AEW management that, this is maybe a match we want to do in the future, so we're going to hold it off. And fair dues, that's a television pay-per-view worthy match of the Lucha Bros versus the Briscoes. People will pay good money to see that match. And I can understand them not wanting it to be maybe on another streaming service through Pro Wrestling TV, and maybe not something people are going to buy for a less price. Fair dues, but they did supplement them with 2 other stars. They gave them Eddie Kingston, and they gave them extra stuff as well. So it's not like they were fully taken away and left with nothing. They were supplemented with other stars as well. So it worked out the way. And I'll say another thing as well. I understand why they don't do top stars. Like I totally get why Tony Khan did not want Jon Moxley to continue GCW events and wanted to drop the championship as quickly as he can and not have Moxley do that stuff anymore. I can understand. Moxley loves that shit. Man can bleed like 30 days of the week. Cool. But when you've got a top star who knows a draw, and with Moxley did in 2022 of basically being the workhorse and soul of AEW, pulling back when things were hitting the fan, you don't want him to go into a GCW show when he's going to tear an artery or tear a ligament or bleed so much he's going to need a goddamn transfusion. Understand that. Fully understand that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand both sides of the argument. It's like what Coby said. It's a tug of war between the 2 options. But at the end of the day, I feel like it was, I think one of the reasons why Jon Moxley was so, appealed to work in AEW was that he could work elsewhere. And now that he can't, I'm going to be honest, I think AEW have done him so well. And, the fan base love him so much. I can't see him leaving. But it doesn't mean that somebody else might not be as appealed to join now because of it. But we can debate about this all day, right? It's an ongoing debate and it'll continue ongoing. But it's been a really good episode today, guys. We got, the AI discussion I thought was great. We got into a lot of topics in depth here. So thank you, Soul and Coby, for joining me. And we're going to be back tomorrow at the same time with Soul and Clark tomorrow, 8 p.m. GMT in the UK and 12 p.m. Pacific time in the US. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow.